Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines and, most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak to transportation professionals on this show, as well as my twice a week long form podcast, because I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Thursday, everybody. Tracy St. Clair over on YouTube. Good morning to you. I'm just going to get right into it. I got a very special guest for you guys here today. He's a busy guy, and we're here to talk about building up carrier relationships, what's going on the trucking side of things. And this guy is as connected as anybody you could ever find in the industry when it comes down to the asset and trucking side of things. So with that being said, I got my man Adam Wingfield back on the show in beautiful sunny Florida right now. I love it. I love it. What's up, man?
What's up, man? Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing okay.
Hell yeah, dude. So, man, what's good out there, man? It's been so long. I know you're busy, and I feel like you guys are actually gonna have to listen to Adam and not catch up here for a little bit, because it's been a while since we talked.
It's been a while.
Man, you've been out on the road though, dude. You were at Matt's here recently. What was that like, man? For people who haven't been to Matt's before, what's that show like?
So the biggest thing that I've noticed, and I've been to Matt's, for quite some time. I've been going for quite some time, years now. And over the years, we've seen it evolve more towards an education space, which I think is really, really good. They have a lot more education that's been drilled down that I do appreciate. At first, for folks who've never been, you're talking about a conference that has over 50,000 to 100,000 people at one time. So it can be kind of somewhat overwhelming, especially if you're not the networking type of person, or if you're not intentional about what you're doing. So I think it's really important, especially with conferences of that stature, to be intentional on what you're going to do. Make sure you know the vendors that are there. Make sure that you know who you're going to participate with. But the whole vibe of the Mats is, it's not necessarily an expo per se, where you're just running around looking at shiny trucks. There's a lot of resources there available for you as well. So that's one of the most important things that I see that a lot of people don't take advantage of. They take advantage of the resources that are available to them so that they can help expedite the success within their business.
So speaking of success in business, I feel like a lot of people at this point, especially on the driver's side, I mean, if and I've been saying this for like 6 months now, man, I'm like, if you've made it through up until now and you're making it work, you're so much closer to things getting better than not at this point. And what are some of your clients doing out there that are keeping them successful in this market?
Focusing on the bottom line, knowing your numbers by every single mile that you take, minimizing your variable expenses as much as you possibly can. Variable expenses are ones that you can't control. Well, you can control, and your fixed expenses are ones that take a little bit more time and more decision makings in order for you to make that control. But our clients are, number one, focusing on controlling their variable expenses. And then we also got to focus on building relationships with, whether it be brokers to have broker direct, or building relationships with shippers potentially where they can have shipper direct freight. Our clients are really, really keen on ensuring that they understand that the fragility of the spot market is something that you don't want to rely your business on. It's not one of the things that you want to buy a truck and jump on a spot market and live there for the rest of your life. We understand that it has to be some sort of balance there, and you have to create your own differentiators so that way you can establish a true business practice that'll help you be more successful. But our clients are really, really focused on those things. And I will say that our clients do a really, really good job. Our clients are getting certified with WBE, MBE, they're getting government contracting. They're doing things that are outside of the norm, because when you have chaos in your norm, you have to operate outside of the norm in order for you to see success.
So how do you figure, and this is like, I just got my taxes finalized yesterday. So this is why a lot of the financial side of things are always top of my mind, they're on my mind 12 months out of the year, because otherwise, how else do you operate? If you don't know your numbers, if you don't know where your revenue's at, if you don't know where your expenses are, how do you forecast anything? How do you stay in business? So what can what are people doing out there, man? Like, what are some of those fixed costs that people need to track no matter what, to give them an idea on this is how you can sustain through market shifts?
So when you think about your fixed costs, those are the things that you made the large bulk purchases within, whether it's your truck, whether it's your trailer, whether it's your insurance. Those are things that are fixed because they go over a longer term, a longer period in order for you to be able to pay those fixed costs down. And when it comes to fixed costs, the decision making on fixed costs has a longer term impact, whereas opposed to decision making on a variable does not. And let me give you an example. If I go out and I buy a truck, that's a fixed cost. And when I buy that fixed cost at $150,000, I have to pay that fixed cost for a fixed amount of time. Whereas opposed to if I go to a fuel stop one day and I spend $5 a gallon on fuel a day, I can correct that decision downstream. I can correct the decision tomorrow and I can buy cheaper fuel. So I can adjust those costs. I think that ultimately those are your biggest focuses, right? So your fixed costs being the ones that you can control long term. But your variable costs is the ones that if you make an error on one of your variable costs, you can fix it tomorrow. You can do a better job at it, consuming some of your fuel. You can do a better job at purchasing or routing yourself around toll booths and things like that. That can help deter some of those variable costs that you have. But those are the two most important costs that you have to realize. And those are the two most important costs that you have to make sure that you keep in front of mind.
So as a business owner yourself, man, how important is it for you to control your own destiny in your company?
100%, 100%. And I think that ultimately it all comes from mindset, right? So you have a lot of people that start trucking companies and the first thing they want to do is they want to hear whatever narrative is going by and they want to blame their failures on that narrative. They want to buy a truck and say, oh yeah, the brokers are taking all the money. Or they want to buy a truck and say, oh yeah, we need transparency. Well, no, when you purchase a truck, you didn't have a business plan. When you purchased a truck, you had no idea on what you wanted to do. You didn't have an idea on how to calculate your costs. You didn't have an idea on how to manage your P&L. You didn't build a brand. You didn't have a website. You didn't do any of these things. You just got a truck and you just got on there and you just hoped that freight would fall in your lap. And that's one of the things that are the Achilles heel for small business owners in this business. You're 100% in control of your destiny to a certain extent. And the thing about that is that when it comes to that, your decisions that you make position you. You'll have people that'll come out here, start a trucking company, and right off the gate, they'll get a direct contract before they even buy their first truck because they build the relationships. They understand the importance of networking and in business. They understand the importance of building a business first and then acquiring the actual asset next. But then you'll have folks that'll do the exact opposite. They'll get out here and they'll buy a box truck and then they'll hope that they get on a load board, or they'll buy a Sprinter van and want to get on a load board and put their pressure on that 3PL in order for them to be able to help keep money and revenue flowing into their business. Those are the critical areas that I see time and time again, where the narrative is really driving the business owner's decision making, and it requires them to pull themselves away from the overall self accountability that's necessary. And as a business owner, and you got to be accountable to yourself. Even as whether you're a brokerage, whether you're a trucking company owner, you got to be accountable to yourself.
I couldn't agree more with that, man. And and it's like the deeper and deeper I get into being in business, it's like the less and less reliant I want to be on anybody else to be able to effectively generate revenue, right? And I think that there's a lot of freight out there, and there's a lot of customers out there at the end of the day who want to work with small trucking companies. They want to work with local companies and everything. And you have to get out there. To start selling, right? Because I think if your business strategy is just go to a load board, find a load that goes anywhere that pays the most money, and you got to have a plan, right? And how many people are you out there talking to, Adam, that are their backs against the wall right now, right? Like they maybe have 30 or 60 days of cash left to stay in business. And they're like, I need help. I need to find out, how do I do this now? And they've been in business though for 2 years at this point.
I see it a lot of times, Chris, and I'll be honest with you, sometimes it's too late. There's a thing that I talk about. It's like when you're on a cruise, your cruise ship can't make a U-turn in a canal. It takes a long time to turn certain circumstances around. And then we'll hear that desperation a lot, like, hey, if I don't get better loads in the next 2 weeks, it's going to shut down for me. But then when we go back and we look at their CSA scores and they look at, I've got a 95% out of service rate, and you got a lot of brokers that don't want to do business with you. You've done bad business with brokers in the past, so you got fallout. So now you got freight guards on your record. those things don't change overnight. Those practices and those things don't change overnight. It's a business, and it takes time for it to turn around. But unfortunately, we do see a lot of people that just, they honestly, it's a little too late.
How much do you think that, again, because obviously, for those of you who are listening, Adam and I are friends. We've known each other for a long time, and he knows what I stand for as a broker and everything else. So I just want to preface what I'm about to say before anybody who's new is hearing this and be like, dude, you're being too. But my thing is how many drivers out there preface any interaction with brokers they have based on what they think, how they think brokers are going to act through truck stop talk?
Way too much. I mean, way too much. I think that it's been one of those cat and mouse games for a long time. You've seen the industry itself deal with that for a long time. And then over these times where you have the ebb and flows, whenever it's in the ebb cycle, you hear that narrative, you hear the banging on the walls and the brokers are screwing us. You hear that a lot more. And you hear that a lot, and you hear people that get into the business that don't have any clue on what's going on, but they get on the load board and they say, oh, well, this is the reason why, I'm not making any money is because the broker's taking all the money. And I'm like, well, you're not making any money, first of all, because your cost of operations are way too high, and second of all, you're not making any money because you didn't have a plan to start a trucking company anyway. You just did it on a whim. And, your pressure is not my pressure. I use that terminology a lot. And you see a lot of business owners, especially in the trucking industry, trucking entrepreneurship, they'll start a trucking company and they'll immediately apply the pressures of whatever their financial situation is on other folks. And it doesn't rub off the right way. So I think a lot of it, more than enough, we see that, they get in here and they'll blame it on, a 3PL or blame it on a brokerage. And I think that that's unfair.
Yeah. Peggy, what is up? Good morning, Peggy Murray. Flo, good morning to you as well, both over on LinkedIn. Yeah, man, and again, it's the same thing out there in the brokerage community, right? Like these guys who are out there talking shit to drivers on the phone and not doing their jobs and trying to make drivers, knowingly send drivers into places that they didn't schedule an appointment. They don't know anything, and they're just setting drivers up for failure. And so there is a very big other point to this equation that goes on out there. But, at the end of the day, Adam and I bond over the fact that we want to highlight quality and we want to put quality information out there to keep people in business. And, that's always the point of these conversations, because, as a broker myself, I know of all the shitty behaviors that brokers are known for, because they are these things aren't, they're not here by accident, right? They're there's actual tangible proof. And if anybody get on some of these groups on social media, and you'll see the screenshots of the emails that go back and forth, or the rate confirmations that are out there with all these rate reductions and all these hoops that these drivers have to jump through just to haul a load out there, and all the rate reductions that are out there. Hell, I think I saw one, this is facetious, but a driver, if a driver sneezes more than twice in an hour, there's a $500 rate reduction. Just bullshit like that. That's out there. And the nickel and diming of things. And I think that is what really goes into a lot of the failures in this business. And I will say this: the reason why those rate deductions are in there is because people accept them. If a driver said no, and then more drivers said no, those would be removed instantly. Because what are you going to tell your customer? Hey, sorry, we can't pick this up because the driver doesn't want to agree to a rate reduction if he, doesn't answer my call twice a day, and some bullshit like that. All of these bullshit rate reductions that are out there would be removed if people stop taking the loads.
No, I agree. And I think that a lot of times too, that it is one of those undermined things too as well. And I'll tell you this: you have brokers that won't explain that until after the rate con's already sent over and signed. And you'll have some that'll put it in the load posting, and you some that won't. So visibility and transparency goes a long way with that. If you're going to say, hey, you know what, if I don't accept macro points, then it's a $500 rate reduction. Let's talk about that in the beginning. Don't wait until it's, the load's already been covered by me, and then I've already agreed for you to send over the rate con, and then you slide it under the door. Don't do that to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of those hoops that brokers are making drivers jump through right now are all going to flip when capacity tightens up, man. All of these requirements are going to go away, and all of these companies that are out there that are you have to do X, Y, and Z. A lot of them are going to I don't want to call it a reckoning or anything like that, but there's going to be a big dose of reality to a lot of people out there when they can't cover any of their loads because they've had the upper hand. And this isn't just a trucking thing, right? Like this is just life in general. This is just business in general. There's a lot of people out there who, when it's easy, they think it's always going to be that way. They drink their own Kool-Aid. They think that they are the second coming of, you know, Christ in brokerage and in the industry and stuff. But there's a hard dose of reality that's coming to a lot of people, because none of this shit is going to fly when you can't cover the load. And then every driver out there is going to be like, if you want me to pick this load up, you're going to remove this and this and this. And I'm not going to give you my ELD information. I'm not going to give you any of this stuff. And then brokers are going to say, yep, done. Yep, it's all removed.
Nah, you're right. Your capacity always kind of determines the overall communication, and capacity always determine, you know, the relationships that are being built. Now, right now, brokers can be really picky. You can be picky. You can say, hey, you got to have, you know, 10 inspections in the last 5 days and be cool with it. But when capacity flips, and then all of a sudden the brokers that had those same requirements, now they're going to have to go back and they're going to chase some of these carriers back down, because they're going to have to fulfill some of the requirements, specifically in the lanes that, you know, they find that they have their most valuable customers in. And that's going to be a challenge. And it's just going to be the way of the flip.
Yeah, man, it's going to be interesting to see out there, right? And I mean, I remember when I told you, I'm like, I'm getting back into brokerage at this time because of when the market flips and the market tightens up. I know that there's going to be a windfall of opportunities, and I'm still 100% on board with that, because, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of people out there, yeah, everybody is good right now, because capacity, all things considered, has been easy for the last 4 years. Since, you know, June of 2020, essentially, when everything opened back up and, you know, rates started to spike up and everything during that time. So essentially the last 4 years, it's been easy to cover freight. And that's not going to remain forever, right? So that's why I say the window of opportunity is going to be plentiful for a lot of people who've been out there. Is a lot of individuals get complacent, they get lazy, and then they think that they're entitled to business. And when that happens, and then there's a challenge, their arrogance is going to get in their own way. And it's just natural human nature at that point. So I think that there's just a lot of stuff out there. And that's why it's like, you know, again, from the driver community, you guys got to constantly be positioning yourself to get direct dedicated freight from customers, or finding the right broker that's out there. And, you know, at the end of the day, the right broker isn't going to run you through a fucking ringer to pick up a load for you. They just want to make sure that you have everything, your understanding of what you're getting yourself into. Like, I got a driver picking up at a military base today, right? Like literally right now, picking up at a military base out there. You better bet yourself that we talked to that driver. We, you know, they were very aware of everything that was expected of them at this load. And right, like, you can't mess around at this stuff. And this is just people's livelihood out there. And that's, like, from my perspective, that's what every driver needs to do. If there's a broker who's nonchalant in their approach on selling a load, I wouldn't take that load from them, because is that load even real? Is that load even ready to be picked up at that time? There's a special care out there that you need to take with this freight. And, like, there's a lot of people who just don't do it.
No, that's true. And I think that too, you mentioned one of the things that you mentioned was the drivers need to know how to approach direct. Well, one of the things that they have to understand too is that they have to create a differentiating strategy that differentiates me from the next. You know, what makes my trucking company different than Chris's? Do I offer LTL? Do I offer tailgating? Do I offer, you know, multi-stop? Do I offer expedited? These are things that you can consider as some of the things that you can lean on. Am I specific in a certain niche, right? Am I a plant hauler? Am I, you know, a chocolate hauler? Or am I just, you know, you gotta narrow down those niches to create an expertise. You got to go in and you got to find what shippers that are in your backyard. You can't be afraid to go talk to them, because a lot of your big shippers with low volume lanes, those low volume lanes are going to get rejected when capacity starts flipping, right? You're going to have your megas that's just going to reject those low volume stuff, and those are going to spill over to the spot. Well, if I'm a smart carrier, I'm going to still be out there soliciting my business. So when those low volume lanes, give me the opportunity to run some of your low volume opportunities so I can show you the type of service that we have. And if you got the right shipper in your marketplace, you guys can grow together, especially if it's a small shipper in the area. If you got a small shipper in the area, you're a small carrier in the area, you guys can grow your businesses together. But you have to build a business. You have to be the CEO of your business. You're the CEO of your company. You got to act like it. You got to go out there and you got to build your business. You got to go out there and act like an executive of your company, and you got to sell your services. Because at the end of the day, as a trucking company, you're in the service business. You provide service to a customer. If I'm providing a service to you, Chris, as a broker, you're my customer, not your customer. You are, right? I'm providing service to you. I'm providing third-party service to you. And because I'm not direct to the shipper, I'm not the shipper's customer. The shipper is not my customer. You are. I'm providing direct customer service to a third-party logistics provider. And it's my job to make sure that third-party logistics provider has everything that they need on the load, that I'm providing them with everything that they need in terms of the requirements of the load. I'm providing them the communication touch points that they need, and I'm getting them the service that I promise as a third-party partner. And that's one of the things that are missing, that they don't understand. A lot of carriers don't understand. It's a third-party partnership, and you have to make sure that you facilitate that. I recommend, if I book a load with you, Chris, and whatever, regardless of what the reason come out in the load, I'm going to send you an email and I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for doing business. Thanks for entrusting Innovative Logistics Group. This load didn't go as planned, but I assure you this is not the level of service that's indicative of what we wanted to provide. I want to have the opportunity to continue to do business with you in the future. Hey, can we get on the phone call sometime in the next couple of weeks? That way we can discuss what happened and discuss long-term solutions going forward, because I really, really want to do business with you. And those are the things that you got to do. You got to be able to go outside of the box. You got to create solutions, and you got to be accountable, and don't be afraid to communicate.
And as a broker, you could apply literally all of that strategy, just plug and play the terminology that Adam's talking about. Because yes, at the end of the day, you pay a trucking company, but that's your customer as well. In my opinion, trucking companies and shippers are my customers, and I need to make sure that everything is as seamless as possible out there, because capacity wins. And again, I'll put this out there again, any broker that can present me with a business plan where they can make money and not need trucks, I'm all ears. I'll fucking invest right now in it, because you ain't still waiting for that. Anthony Dupree has a question for you, Adam, over on YouTube. He says, can you share how about government and military loads? I'm in Virginia and I'm interested in servicing our bases.
So one of the biggest things is, number one, you got to be at SDDC. If you never heard of SDDC, you want to go to their website. The SDDC is where you'll find a lot of that. It also requires a time in business. So the SDDC typically is going to require 2 to 3 years in business. If you don't have that, you want to partner with a 3PL broker that's already in that process of moving military freight, like Landstar and things of that nature. A lot of your military freight is going to be open deck. You're going to have a lot of open deck stuff. There's some, obviously there's drive-in opportunities, and military freight, kind of moves along the lines in a lot of areas, but you'll see a lot of open deck opportunities that are posted 3PL wise, and you're going to want to make sure that you partner with a broker that does so. But your biggest thing is also you want to look at getting government certified. Are you WBE certified? You MBE certified? Make sure that you get your government certifications. Also, you want to get certified with FEMA. I think the open registration for FEMA is closed for this year, but you want to get registered with FEMA. That's another government load, right? Those are loads that you get directly from the government. But so if you get certified as a FEMA carrier, you can go directly through FEMA. FEMA sends loads directly to their actual carriers, and then you can choose to assist in those type of realms. So you just got to get ahead of the game, and always don't be afraid to hop on that your local networking groups that typically might have those opportunities as well. So the biggest thing is SCDC, working with a 3PL, trying, getting certified with FEMA when their open registration period is. I believe that the open registration period's over. It's April 4th. It might be, it might be open, but those are the low hanging fruits that you can go after when it comes to military freight. But you also got to understand that military freight is going to require different requirements on the insurance perspective. So you're going to have to be flexible within that. Some of that military freight is going to cause you to have to raise some of your cargo standards, as well as some of your auto liability standards in some cases as well. So you just got to be prepared for that. But I appreciate the fact that you're going after education, and also you're going after a little bit something more solid when it comes to military freight.
Yeah. Peggy says this is all good information. Eric Ransom over on YouTube says late today, but I'm hearing some good stuff. Sunny Sharma, good morning. Late check-in. Orange shirt gang in the house. And yeah, man, I think what you just said right there about changing your insurance and stuff. I think a lot of people would be pleasantly surprised on the doors that would open up by increasing their cargo insurance, but even by $50,000, and what that opens up from a freight perspective and from a payment perspective as well. I remember talking with our mutual friend Melanie Patterson here a while back, and I was talking with her group, and I met a guy in there who hauls open deck freight, and he was only carrying 100,000 in cargo. I'm like, man, you got to go out there and see what you can get, and see what your cargo insurance is for $250,000 in cargo. And he sent me a message a few weeks after that saying, man, I looked into it, and dude, it's a whole other world of freight out there when it comes to high value cargo. So, again, it's like looking into it as a business owner, and that's how you have to approach it. What does that investment look like? Right? It is, it is going to cost you more money. Okay. There's no other way to put it, but what additional revenue streams does that open up for you if you do start carrying $250,000 in cargo? If you are TWIC certified, like Anthony, with you being Anthony Dupree, if you're still watching, man, being in Virginia right now, everything that just happened at the Port of Baltimore, if you don't have a TWIC certification, I would get your TWIC card as well, because there's like bringing some of those containers down to the Norfolk is a major artery that they're going to be transporting all of that freight down to. So that would be another area that I would look into. And, again, if you're out there as a trucking company, you should look into those things. Like, it might just be a simple test at that point. Like, I'm not Twix certified, so I don't know. But from my perspective, like, look into that. What does that do? That increases your value at the end of the day as a driver. It increases your value to the overall market. If you have additional insurance, if you have more certifications, you can take on more business at that point.
Yeah, and you got to look at, just like you said, you're increasing your value, but you're also differentiating yourself against the pack, right? Every step and everything that you add to your business, you're leading the pack further and further along, and particularly in that particular environment. So I definitely would agree with that. Got to separate yourself from the competition, because if you don't separate yourself from the competition, you become stagnant in that. So I just recommend carriers to go out and be more aggressive and differentiating themselves. And like you said, you arm yourself with as many certifications as possible, so that way you give yourself the opportunity to haul whatever.
Yeah. And, and that's the thing. Generally speaking, the more requirements, the more money. All right. Just at the end of the day, I mean, we moved a specialized shipment here a while back, and it was a lot of money for only 1,000 miles, like a lot of money, and it's just one of those situations where it's like, you get out there, you have higher insurance value, you have, increase your value in the market. Your rates are going to naturally increase with that. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Anthony Dupree says, thanks for the feedback, guys. So dude, as we're kind of wrapping up here, we just got a couple minutes left. What's your sentiment here? Like what's something, again, any driver can do today to see an almost immediate improvement in their business?
Number one, just step back and look at the big picture. It's kind of like the Smith system. Part of the Smith system in driving was seeing the big picture. Well, step back and look at the big picture. See the big picture of your operations. Look at your opportunity costs. Look at what it costs you to run your trucking company. Understand that to the T. Get better educated on the business side of it. Business education is so important, because you go from a driver to a business owner overnight. Well, the education has to come with that as well, because it takes a lot to run a trucking company. There are so many components, whether it's compliance or administrative and profitability. Those are the things that are considered with. That's immediate. The first thing you need to do is get in tune with your business. Once you're able to get in tune with your business, if you don't know how, I'm doing a free seminar, and this is for anybody. I'm doing a free seminar on May the 4th, where we're going to be doing an actual boot camp, and we're doing a survival seminar where we're going to teach some of the basic principles. So if you haven't registered for that, obviously want to go and you want to register for that. But then make sure that you understand the business principles for it. I want to make sure that we're teaching the business side in 2024, teaching you how to run a business. And then the trucking part is easy, right? Anybody can buy a truck and get behind the wheel and drive it, but it takes a special person to be an exceptional business owner. And I want to create more exceptional business owners, because that is what's going to be the need for us to move forward.
I love that, man. And yeah, dude, I'm like, and that's just something that you learn with experience, because, operating a business and being an employee of a business are two very, very different things. And, you have to wear multiple hats, but frankly, at the end of the day, it is 100% your responsibility to understand what you need to do to make your business successful. And most importantly, keep your business successful, because there's always going to be down markets. But guess what? There are a lot of people who grow in down markets and continue to grow no matter what, because they are out there and they are actually running a business, you guys. It's a very, very challenging thing. And, this is just another reminder out there. FinCEN, I talked about it the other day on my call. If you are an LLC owner in the transportation industry, you need to check out FinCEN. All right. This is a very, very, very real thing. And you do not want to get slapped with fines because you think that it's not going to affect you. It is going to affect you. It is the feds are already going to start coming. Like, I guarantee they already have a database of everybody who's done it, and they're just waiting to pounce on the ones that aren't, you guys. So pay attention to that stuff out there.
Absolutely. Follow those BOIs. Make sure you follow your BOIs.
Oh, man, I love it. Well, Adam, how does anybody find out more? Like, how do they get in touch with you, man? Where do they find that free seminar at? Can they just follow you on Instagram or anything like that to find that?
Find me on Instagram. I'll put a post out on LinkedIn today, so that way they can register as well. I posted out over on Twitter, so you'll be able to access those links there. You can actually go follow us on the Facebook page, and it's also there also.
Perfect, man. I love it. Adam, as always, thank you so much for joining. Tomorrow, you guys, is Q&A show every single Friday. Q&A for the transportation industry. As always, if you guys got value in what you heard today, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network. This is how we can reach more people, but most importantly, this is how we can help them, is because if you saw value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.